date.
Okay, we're back, we'll go to the board appointment policy update, fair board manager discussion. So was there a discussion at your fair board meeting on this, Darryl?
Well, they wanna advertise for our new management as soon as possible. Because Jessica will be gone the end of this month. So I guess sooner we can get that in the paper and advertised for interested persons, and we can make those appointments. And, excuse me, I did discuss him about, Article 5, about the manager hired by the Fair Board. So we felt that that's probably actually something that we should do. So they don't, they don't really need that responsibility, since the person is a county employee. But they do want to set the salary, because it is their budget.
It's actually, that should be done by us.
Yeah.
Salary goes with hiring personnel.
Right.
We can certainly work with them, but it should follow the matrix.
But it needs to fall within their budget. We can't set something higher than what their budget would allow.
Oh, no, that's across the board, any
Right.
department.
Yeah.
No, it could easily go the other way, and
Sure.
that was the perspective that
Mm-hmm.
we have to look at both,
Right.
yeah.
So that's kind of really where they're at with that discussion that we talked about, transfer the computer and all that kind of stuff. All that information is there.
So are we gonna have Michelle advertise that position and then she'll get applicants, or?
Yeah, we'll have to put, the job description is our responsibility as the supervisor, so we'll have to get that updated. And I think Jessica gave us one.
She did, yeah.
And then we'll have to set the salary and the hours, and then put that into an ad. Michelle can run that, she's been going through BCDC's community website, Ernie 40. And then when she gets the applications in, our process is we go through those, determine which ones we're gonna interview, and then Michelle will set up an interview schedule. Because it's a person directly under us, it should be the three of us, plus at least a member of the Fair Board. And I would suggest also Extension, Allison should be involved in that, since she would work closely with the Fair Board manager.
Carl, there was a question though brought up about the groundskeeper who will be supervising them and signing off on their time. I mean, I'm assuming that, the fair manager is, but I don't know how it's been done in the past.
That would be, it's just like the weed coordinator signs off on the
Right.
hours of the sprayers. So the
Mhm.
fair manager would sign off on the hours and the duties of the groundskeeper.
And that's what I assumed, that's kind of what I thought it would be, but I'd talk with you guys first and
Yeah,
get your thoughts on that.
and it probably shouldn't be a board member.
Mhm.
So if it is, we either need to ask that person if they would like to be the groundskeeper or a board member,
Okay,
because it is under the Code of Ethics, and we have an email from Carla Bossi, our previous county attorney, on this. Code of Ethics states that you cannot be in a position of supervisory over someone who is supervising you.
Mhm.
Kind of makes sense. And that's that position.
Okay.
Even though we are the direct supervisor, anybody who answers to a board also has that complexity to it.
Sure. All right, well, if you can remember, send me that email and
Yeah,
I'll address that
okay,
the next one.
sounds good. It's directed more to sanitarian and commissioner. It was Franklin
Okay,
not being able to continue doing septic systems as a commissioner, when he was supervising the sanitarian, who then had to supervise his sanitation work, so.
Sure, yeah, I understand.
But the principle is the same.
We'll look at that.
All right.
Okay, so let's,
One other question on that, as I recall, we have spouses, a husband and wife on the board. Did you talk to them at all about that?
No.
So we should address that somehow, because you have too easily a conflict of people going home and, you know, serving on the same board. So maybe we can look at with our new policy next December, or if you guys wanna do it sooner. And one of the big changes, Nicole is not here, but one of the big changes I wanna see with our board appointments is a list of who's on the board today, along with the new people who want to be on the board, to make sure that we don't do that, because we can't remember who's on boards.
Yeah, no, I
There's
did
too
talk to
many.
them about their bylaws, but they got a pretty heavy lift going on right now.
Right.
Said, let's not worry about it till after the fair is over and they have some time to work on that, so,
Yeah,
so that's kind of the guidance I gave them on bylaws.
okay,
Is that, you guys okay with that?
yeah.
absolutely. It doesn't have to be done overnight.
Yeah.
They have pretty good bylaws.
They do,
Very good bylaws.
yeah,
We just need to tweak a little bit.
yeah, I gave them a copy of what our standard boilerplate was, and so they can go from there.
Sure.
Okay.
They could even tweak these.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll go on to 1245, trust board grant standards.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a real quick clarification on the agenda, maybe I blanked, but 12 o'clock, commission control funds budget submission?
Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna get these guys out of here. They've been sitting here all morning.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that, I appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, trust board grant standards. This is the question on the lift at the docks, right?
Could be.
And I'm glad you're here, Steve. Thanks.
So where are we at here?
So I guess for me, I'll just speak for me, I think we need some grant standards. For one, it was a surprise to the three of us when Richard was told to come to the commission with a trust board grant. And I think we need to be able to say to any citizen who wants to apply for a grant from the trust board, these are the projects that will be considered, these are the criteria by which they'll be judged, and this is what you can expect if you follow these standards. So the trust board previously funded a lift for people in wheelchairs to be able to get into boats at the silos. It was a partnership with Walleyes Unlimited, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of these details, but a part has now broken on that lift that was the result of a grant, and this grant was submitted to the trust board, and then the trust board apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, told the citizen, Richard, to come to the commission for the grant approval. That's not our process. We were not advised of this, so it was a surprise. So it just reiterated the need for these grant standards for public clarification, commission clarification, trust board clarification, especially when there's $1.2 million that we're talking about. So I think that's it. And did I get anything wrong? Okay.
So Richard, your request was an actual grant to repair the,
Yeah, there's a cylinder on that.
yeah, and I read it.
Okay.
And
That was
it
it.
sounded like a pretty substantial savings
And-
from what the original part cost to what the discount that they were giving you.
Yes, well, we've had a price increase
Mm-hmm.
over, because Cause I think that price was last year's,
Mhm.
and now it's about $17 more. And then that 58 mile an hour wind last week took the cover somewhere. So I've included a cost of a new cover. But, I have those here, but I shared it, so I just need to know what I need to do, or, you know, the walleye, I already talked to the walleyes group, and of course, it's not that big of a job to put it on. It's a plug and pull, and, it's not complicated by any means, not like remounting it or anything. So, I'm willing to do it, you know, I've talked to the walleyes group, you know, we could go that way too, but I don't know, it's.
The process that we have to follow, and I think it's in the charter that put together the trust board. The trust board is the first approval line, and then we approve what they approved, and then it's done. So it can't really come to us first, so I think that was maybe lack of a written policy that allowed a confusion to happen. Without a standard, it's hard to say yes or no to a grant. It's hard not to say yes to a grant without a standard out there. So since this is part B of an already approved grant, I'd personally like to see it go back to the trust board, and hopefully for approval since it's already been approved. If that makes sense.
Well, excuse me, Chairman, it hasn't been approved.
The first part was of the install?
Oh, that part, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Purchasing of the equipment.
Right, yeah, and it is quite an asset out there for something that's a huge economic driver. It is a great asset that allows more people to use the lake.
Yes, sir, Steve.
I guess I'm speaking from the public standpoint where the trust board wasn't invited to this, which concerns me a little. But our position from the trust board is, and we have standards, we just have not submitted them yet. They're in our, they're completed.
Good,
And,
excellent.
And they're done. We're doing our final read-through on our bylaws as well as our grant application, modified that a little. Even in our grant application, one of the things it says in there is, who's gonna do the maintenance? And we buy stuff all the time, and who's gonna do the maintenance? We're not looking to get ongoing costs. If we're gonna go ahead and buy the docks, I mean, we, as in the trust board, have spent more than $500,000 out there on a federal facility, and we knew we were walking away from it at the time, but we're not looking to underwrite Bureau of Reclamation's maintenance on a federal project, and we will probably continue with that position. We bought it, but with ancient history, go back, the first contract written with Sharon Walker is 18,000 a year came to the trust board. After the second year, the commission said, the trust board doesn't have authority to write contracts. That contract was apparently considered null and void. You now collect the money from Sharon Walker. I have no idea what that is, nor that's not our concern. You've taken that over. So from a trust board standpoint, we're probably in a position, the cost on that federal facility is under the commission's tutelage now, not ours. Had we still been collecting the 18,000 a year, we'd be dumping that right back in for maintenance and enhancement and doing anything we could, but we're no longer in that field. So that's probably the position I'm shooting from the hip, because I'm not representing the trust board here. This is, I just read it on the agenda and went, that's pertains to the trust board, maybe we should have somebody here, but point of clarification.
What's our contract say then as far as for maintenance of those facilities? facilities, is that Sharon Walker's responsibility?
Well, what we'd wanna see is it in the application, and, I don't know if it does or not. As far as maintenance, that is a combined partnership, so it's either the responsibility of the group that installed it, or it's of the concessionaire, or it's of the managing partner. So or it's of BOR. So it depends on what it is we're talking about. My biggest concern is that there wasn't clarification for the public, regardless of who the public was. If a grant is denied for any reason, there should be something in writing specifying why, and we should be privy to that. If someone is referred to us, then we need to be aware of that by the trust board. Why did you refer them? What are the details that we need to know? So that's one of the things that I'd like to see in the standards, and I'm really excited you have those done. I think that's really important.
We may not get into that much detail. Our standards are, when you apply for a grant, here's what we base it on. It's public safety, recreation, our standard is not based on, we think you're in the wrong venue. We didn't even take that grant. We said, we think you're in the wrong venue. This is a county run facility, and they collect money on it, and I presume you do maintenance on your facility. I don't know, but we said, you're in the wrong venue. This needs to go to the commissioners. We probably could have written you a letter and advised you of that, but it was pretty obvious to us. We don't do maintenance on Pets Bureau Rec.
Man, I wonder about that, because I've been at these meetings as well. Whether the Bureau of Rec, or it really is a Sharon's responsibility as the manager and operator of that facility. You're the owner, but you're hiring her to run it and maintain it. Bureau Rec is, they wanna help develop, but they want the county to be in charge.
And that's one of the things we've been addressing these past couple of years, or past couple of months really, is what is that dividing line? So in the past, what we've kind of based that on is it something that could have been avoided, or was it, something that just happened and was gonna happen anyway, and then act accordingly based on that. So there isn't a concrete, everything maintenance falls on Sharon, plus she just doesn't have that much money. With everything she puts into the campground already, there isn't a lot left for some of the big stuff. Well, how do you define big or small? And that's where standards come in. To one group, $1,000 is nothing. To another one, it's prohibitive. But it's not really the dollar amount, it's what do the standards say about the project? Yeah.
Yes, Steve?
An initial blush on this, I'd encourage that to come in and yeah, we'll do it. I mean, it's a few $100s, kind of a no-brainer for us. And it was the trust board that kind of said, hey, be careful with precedents you set on the maintenance of the Bureau Rec facility. The wind did some damage to some of the docks out there. And so there's a bill that somebody needs to pay that's gonna be several $1,000s for repair on the dock. And I'm saying dock, it might be a slide-in ramp, I'm not privy to all that. Bureau Rec has already said, that's not our baby. That's Sharon Walker or the county. Well, had we approved this $500 thing, boom, we've set precedents that we're taking over maintenance at the Bureau Rec. It may be less than $5,000 for this repair. What happens if it's $50,000? Trust board doesn't want to be involved in that. If you guys like to continue with the lease of Bureau Rec, you certainly can, it's your choice, but
But we need a standard. We need something in writing so that that is documented for the public. public, and that's where I know you're working on it, again, good, I'm excited. We gotta have that, the public has a right to know.
I guess, in my mind, last week we spent, part of the day out there, at that meeting with the BOR, and that's what we discussed, was all the deficiencies in the dock area.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like at that point that was stuff that Sharon Walker was responsible for. So in my mind, what makes this different than that?
I'm not sure there is a difference.
So why
As
should she
far as,
maintain it?
well, this isn't hers, she put in the docks, maybe it is hers now, I'm not sure how that works, if it was put in by Walleyes. And I don't think that this is the debate of the day. The debate of the day is the public has a right to know. Then we're talking about $1.2 million. The public has a right to know today what the standards are that their grant submissions will be judged by, what will be awarded if somebody puts in the time to put in a grant. That is what this is about. This just happens to be an example that brought this to the forefront. And then also, part of those standards needs to be, how do we communicate with each other so this commission isn't blindsided in the future? And again, so that the public knows the process, who to talk to. Without standards, it's hard to say no to anything, because it's the public's money, and this is serving the public. So,
Well, I mean-
if we want to debate this in specific, we can, but I think we should have more of the players involved.
Well, part of the question is for Richard, is who's gonna help repair the lift? I mean, that's, in my mind, that's the question at hand. Is it gonna be us? Is it gonna be Sharon Walker?
Wait, it's not actually what's on the agenda,
Well, I mean,
but
we need to answer that question. Richard sat here all day
I agree.
to get an answer to his question. So-
And my stance is, we don't have a policy or a standard that says we will not grant for Part B of something that's already been granted. The trust board did the first half. I believe that a grant was submitted. There's nothing that says it won't be granted as a Part B, and so it should be. I'm not sure about the cover, that is not included in this. But it's hard to debate that without written standards so that the public knows. That's my comment.
Yes, Steve?
Trust Board didn't sponsor this. It was a grant application by
Right.
Sharon Walker in participation with Walleye Limited. We participated in it, as we do with many other things. And we do not take over maintenance of something that we participated in. That's one of our red flags, is let's not hook the county funds, the trust board funds, into long-term maintenance that's, could be uncontrolled, is not managed by us. And and we will continue that. And the public's right to know. That was in our meetings, the public is allowed to attend, the public is totally aware of what we do. We are probably as honest and open a board as we can possibly be. The fact that you didn't get clarification of that, we didn't turn down a grant. We said, you went to the wrong venue. This is, we don't do maintenance at the silos. That's a county facility, owned by the Fed. And we will continue not to do maintenance silos. I mean, that's, if you need an enhancement out there, we're certainly game for enhancement. We don't want to get hooked on somebody's not doing their job and we have to repair it, so.
Yeah,
Or
and
Mother Nature even. I mean, that's-
I would say that when I did the grant at the ball field, with this who will operate and maintain the project, you were required to give a plan of who was gonna maintain the project once the project was completed. I mean, that was part of the grant process.
Always has been, yeah.
And technically, you actually did decline this grant because it was submitted. That's neither here nor there. All I'm saying is, we need to have a standard. We should have been communicated with because we didn't know. And I do wanna see a standard that says, if that's the case, that you're not gonna participate in maintenance. And if a grant comes to you, for instance, a wheelchair lift, and it's not specific enough on the maintenance issue after we have the standards, then I would say it's up to the trust board to get those details so that there is no further confusion by any member of the public or a group as to what the requirements are. And that will be cleared up with standards so the public knows.
I think if that's actually where you guys wanted to go today, the trust board would have been invited to this meeting. We weren't invited to this meeting. I showed up here to defend the trust board. And our position is, he came to the wrong spot. That was not, we didn't deny the grant, we said you're in the wrong spot, so. Had we denied it, the process would have started. You'd have gotten a letter saying we denied it, so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm glad to hear that. I look forward to better communication.
And that's in our new
What you
bylaws
guys are
too.
doing. Good, that's perfect.
We've had probably 6 meetings on that, and it would have been completed, but Virgil's wife needed a hip or knee or something, and so we postponed it till the 21st, so.
The 21st. Do you, don't we have something going on the 21st?
We do, and these guys are gonna meet at the Rod and Gun
Oh,
Club,
okay, so you-
so we
okay,
won't be able
okay.
to attend.
Okay.
One of the things that Steve correctly stated is the trust board doesn't have authority to write contracts or sign contracts. That falls on us, and that'll be included in the standards as well.
No, that's us, you don't explain a redundancy, we don't have that authority, period. That doesn't show
Okay.
in the contract, or the bylaws.
That's another thing, maybe we need to communicate to the trust board that we need to see all those contracts, that they need to be signed by the commission. We have a couple out right now that we have not seen to sign, and I'm not comfortable again with requirements that are actually grounded in law. We need to make sure we're following those to a T, especially when you're talking about $1.2 million out there. It's just an open door for people to let rumors run amok, which we know can happen. So
Trust
the-
board
the-
won't let that happen.
Right.
Okay, all righty. Okay, so I guess we can go back to our 12 o'clock commission-controlled fund budget submissions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve.
Richard, thank you.
You bet, have a good day.
You too.
I'll replace my thingy.
So the one submission that we have from Val, is that considered a submission or is that a budget request?
Budget request. Yeah, what, I didn't know what to call it. We got those, sheets from Debbie. This was 3 weeks ago. They're the budget report multi-year annuals. What we do every year is we go through and fill out our budget submission. Debbie gets these from every single department. It's what she puts together to put together the preliminary budget that we will adopt the end of June and work off of until we adopt the final budget in August. So if you guys want, we can come back to them next week, but we have, she sent us extension, which will be Allison. The library, we have get a report from the library every year, we got that, so we can fill that in. Predatory animals for sheep, ambulance, senior citizen meals, we do that one. Senior citizen transportation, that's Meals on Wheels. Juvenile transport, that's on us. Economic development, we should put that back in the
Is
mills.
juvenile transport, that's just the transport, that's not the housing, or does that include the housing?
It's the housing too, I don't know why it's just called transport, but it's the housing as well.
And why do we end up that, and how come that doesn't go to the sheriff's department for retention?
I don't know. It just never has. And I don't know why. We can put it with the sheriff. It's always been in the general fund for some reason. We used to get, the state had a grant that we used to share for juvenile detention, and that was lost last session. And it's been totally on us ever since, but yeah, it comes out of the general fund. Why, I don't know. We can ask Debbie that one. I don't know that she'll have an answer, but we can ask her.
And they're just calling it transportation, but they're including the housing in
Yeah. And what we've done past years is we put a little bit in every year, and then this year, past years, we haven't used it. We haven't used it for a long time. Last year, we had somebody who spent quite a bit of time in Great Falls at the juvenile center, and what we ended up doing is going over the budget, so we'll have to put some more money in before the end of the year. That'll be a budget amendment.
okay.
And I think they're in Pine Hills now, so that should stop accumulating.
Okay.
And then, let's see, health, that's Debbie. Alcohol rehab, we just did that. State allocated federal mineral royalties, that's on us. PILT, that's on us. And our commission budget's in here somewhere. Commissioners, that's on us to determine. Generally, we either take last year's numbers, we do an average of the 4 years, take both those practices, add anything we see coming, delete or reduce where we don't see something coming.
We use the actuals for the average, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know on the predator, they have predators for sheep and cattle, right?
Correct.
Are they including, there was a couple of rules in there about wolves and grizzly bears, so are they including those this year?
I think
So
so.
is there a bump in that fund?
I don't think so. It's based on numbers, there's a formula, I think it's the FSA that puts that together, and it's based on the number of producers who have their number of sheep, their number of cows. We get the numbers and then we send them that money, so that's pretty easy. We can go off just one master sheet if you guys want to, or we can come back, each of us with our own. Whatever you guys wanna do is fine by me.
So since we froze everything last year, so do we need to figure a percentage increase for last year and this year, or do we just try to go off what we had? We're still gonna stay pretty close to what we had last year anyway, are we not?
Right, yeah, Debbie and I talked about this last week, or, it would've been last week, what we can guesstimate an increase will be, and she works closely with Nancy Everson on that, who is the person who really brought Debbie up to speed, so we rely a lot on her, and she's brilliant. But, what she does every year is she determines based on, what they have going on, what they can probably expect conservatively for an increase in growth in the value of a mill. So in talking to Debbie, we were thinking maybe 3%. It's pretty conservative, it's very conservative, but probably very safe. So each department should be able to know that if they get 1 mill for their department, they can realize that mill times 3%.
Sure.
And that will probably be what they have. Not a huge increase, and of course that'll have to cover any COLA as well.
we have to factor in our 3.9, we were figuring out compensation board the other day also.
Debbie will do that,
And that
Yeah.
was just into salaries and everything, right?
right?
Debbie does all that. Okay.
Yeah. So we're really just responsible for revenue and for operational expenses.
Does the Opportunity Bank, does that loan come out of the general?
No, it would come out, yeah, probably out of the general fund. I would imagine what we should do is work with extension office and ambulance and anyone else who uses that building, and they should all have a cost share in paying that loan back.
Right.
And we have some formulas in the past that we can apply, but, a nominal fee for office space and meeting space, which is the highest, and then a fee for garage space, which would be the lowest. But, yeah, we should figure out what that is, and then that would come out of their budgets.
Do we have a Northwest Energy, audit on that building?
No, we should do one, and I would also think with Mike and going in there to do some reconstruct, that he can do some insulation,
Okay.
so that we can, solidify that building to use less energy in the winter.
Right.
And summer.
And also, Junaea's replacement, will we have hours in that, or is that going to?
I would
Change.
like to, we have a while yet, I forget I haven't seen an official letter with a date. We need to sit down with Sean, we need to sit down, and evaluate what we need there. I'm not sure, I think that position's working really good, but I think it could be tweaked. So I think we need to have a working meeting on that.
Is that sanitarian budget part of our budget also?
No, yes, because Sean is just contract. So I asked Debbie to send us the sanitarian budget so that we can fill that in. Should probably work with Sean on that too, but that does fall to us since he is just contract.
What other things do we have?
That's really, I think that's about all of them. We have both revenue and expenditure for each one. And, employee safety, that's one that's on us.
We're gonna have some training with that, or is that all?
That should all be covered, I think, under, like with Safety Fest and with Amelia.
Okay.
I know Mike's doing quite a bit online, those are free, so that should be, shouldn't be too much. I did instruct Brian, and this is standard practice, and talk to Mike about it. And if you guys wanna overrule this, that's fine, it's, we get a little bit of money whenever our mod factor decreases, so we get a rebate on our insurance, which is why we've been pushing for the safety committee for so long. That money should pay for the coordinator's time. So Mike, for example, is under maintenance. When he spends 2 hours in a week getting ready for a safety meeting, those hours should come out of the safety budget, not the maintenance budget.
Did we have that in the budget last year?
Mm-hmm. And because it wasn't used, it will roll over to next year.
Okay.
So we don't do a use or lose it. I don't know if it says how much. Employee safety, that's expenditure, so revenue will show us how much we have. Fairs, that'll be on us this year with, can work with Jessica, but with her going the end of the month, that'll probably be up to us to finish up that one. Yeah, Debbie sent it to us, but, I don't see it yet. Personnel services, that's on us. Yeah, it's in here somewhere.
Are all of our stuff with the CDB, that's all covered through that grant, right?
With the what?
The CDBG grant for the growth and stuff, that's all covered through the grant?
Correct, yes.
I think we decided we wanted to do something additional with our subdivision, and that would be
Yes,
additional cost.
yes, yeah. And we would wanna work with Nicole on that, cause that should come out of the planning budget, yeah.
What about the, is the Grover building, that's the hospital district's responsibility? Is there anything that comes out of that?
No, they're back to paying any heat for that building. You know, if it continues to fall down, that's on them at this point, cause we're out of it. And I'm not actually sure about that. If the thing falls down, it looks like, according to our contract, that we're jointly responsible, and something we need to talk about maybe
Do we have
Wednesday.
any insurance on that thing?
The hospital district board should,
Okay.
yeah.
So what about the Brownsfield, does that, Brownsfield will cover everything?
Unless we continue to delay. The Petro board has only 2 more meetings this summer. We don't get in there, we're delaying a year, and then who knows?
Why are we delaying now? Are we delaying or are we just?
I hope not. I hope Wednesday's meeting is, let's go ahead and get the process started. We don't know how long it's gonna take.
Okay.
Obviously, it's not gonna happen tomorrow, you know,
Yeah.
or Thursday, if we agree to move forward. But right now, they have nothing from us that we are in agreement to even move forward.
Oh, okay.
And that's a serious problem.
Mhm.
The ideal would be it wouldn't cost us anything to get that cleaned up, and then we'll have an asset on our hands rather than a detriment. And I say we collectively, I mean the community through the district board.
I can't think of anything other than what we've got on her that we're gonna have to, that we're gonna need.
Do you wanna go through them now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So,
Well, let me go get mine. I printed them all off. I didn't know we were gonna need them for today.
it's up to you guys if you wanna do it today or if you wanna
I
wait.
wanna follow along.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, there's only 2 people in our office up there. One of them has not gone to lunch yet. So if I could be excused, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it would be good.
we did have a
Do we
1
have
o'clock,
the,
right, just to finish up that process. Do you guys wanna do this maybe next week?
yeah, let's
No.
put this back to next week and we'll do
Okay.
that, and we
Mhm.
can, where everybody will have them,
Okay,
and then go through those.
and then that way Ann can leave us with
So we
their
will,
conscience.
if there's any more business, yes, Tim?
Just a clarification, Mr. Chairman, on the dock discussion on the grant standard. Did the commission put any time frame on putting that together? Because I asked Richard what he was going to do as he was leaving the meeting here today, and he said he didn't know where he was going. So I was just curious as where that's at, in case I missed it.
I think we're probably gonna have to have it on the agenda for next week to discuss it again, and see if that's what he wants, is to have us pay for it.
Okay, and then I got one more question, if I may, and this is personal. As Tim Ravendahl, citizen, I don't know if this was really part of your agenda, that was on the, excuse me, I'll try to go quick here. Board appointment policy update, fair board manager decision. I know there's a lot of discussion on the fair board manager, excuse me, position. My question, Mr. Chairman, is March 21st, I submitted a letter of request to serve on the planning board on behalf of the people of Broadwater County. Never heard anything, and then I made a request in public comment several weeks later to appear before the commission as a citizen with that request to have that discussion. And still have not heard anything on that, Mr. Chairman. So I would just like a clarification if we are moving forward, what is the status? And thank you very much.
I think I got an answer for that, hopefully it's the
Yeah.
right one. So we gave that request to the planning board, and they were supposed to meet last week, but they didn't, got postponed. Supposed to meet this week, it got postponed, so
Right.
the 21st.
Okay,
So that's where that request is at, was with them,
okay,
and then.
I appreciate
And then
that.
they'll make their, they'll advise us on what.
Because in fact, the night of the Conservation District meeting, Mr. Commissioner, I did talk to Mr. Albright,
Yep.
and he said he had no idea that that was pending. And that's why I just was wondering
Yeah.
where we're at on that. And if there was something I needed to do as a citizen, and I'm falling down on that, that's where I wanted to make sure I got that clarification.
Yeah, that's where that's at.
Thank you.
That's, yeah.
Okay.
Were we gonna have Nicole come back for that, Doc, before we close this meeting, or? Was that what we?
Yeah, she might still be working on
Let me
it.
go take a quick check.
Okay,
Um,
then she could knock and come on in
Yeah.
if she wanted. All right, thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Sam.
Relieve duty.
So we have to get the, we're meeting with the district board on Wednesday morning.
Yeah,
What time is that?
8.
No, that's tomorrow, okay.
You're available?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go to the fort, I think, tomorrow and maybe Thursday, I don't know yet.
Okay.
Was there something else tomorrow afternoon?
Tomorrow is the 14th. I didn't bring my calendar with me.
Is there something on the 15th? The Board of Health
That's right,
is in the afternoon, and
yes.
there's no, there was something else, I had something else at double dates. Is there union negotiations this week? No, that's next
Mm-mm.
week.
No. I can't think
So
of
we have an 8
anything
o'clock
else.
with the district board and then a 1 o'clock with the health board.
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Do you have it done?
Yeah, she just finished up, she had someone come into her office that she had to
Oh,
take care of, so she just put the final.
she is very good at the customer
Yeah.
service side of things.
Yeah, so she
Everybody
did.
comes in and they've got her full attention, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's good.
If you need something to do this afternoon, my deed just came in now, and you could go pick them up for me.
Oh, where did you see them?
Montana Bee Company,
Where's that?
they're raised down by Manhattan,
By where?
by Manhattan.
Oh,
So did I see an email today that Hugh might not be at our meeting on Wednesday? He's
I
just gonna be-
No, he, Corey wanted to
I know
meet
it's
with
already
Hugh
told me that.
and
Yeah.
I
Wanted to go get my
today
deed.
on our Wednesday meeting.
Okay.
And Hugh emailed
You'd
this
already
morning and
told
said,
me
I'm
that,
not
that's why I
available
wanted
today,
to-
but
Oh.
I guess.
Oh, it's today, okay.
Yeah,
So is
I
Vic
just,
coming
I'm
then?
getting one pass.
Is Vic gonna represent,
which
or?
is the coin.
or you got-
Today?
Today,
yes.
And then
okay,
if
so you
I
guys will still have that
an
meeting?
average of
Yes.
anywhere from
Yeah,
1,000
I haven't
to
heard anything from
1,500
Corey as to the time.
that come with her.
Okay,
So
Um,
how many hives does that?
So,
That will take one hop.
One hive, okay.
It's a
Yeah.
double decker, quadruple.
and I did read Brian's email,
On top of that,
regarding-
once they start making honey.
the timeline
You know,
for
it's my first
the remediation.
rodeo. So
Right.
I've been talking about this. for,
yeah,
Okay.
Pushing 10 years. And I finally last fall decided, well, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So I went ahead and ordered. the
I've been working also with Mark
And then,
Mickey,
Of
Eric
course,
Bryson
add
and
insult to my
Mackenzie,
waiting.
who's been kind of,
HB
tracking.
443
Um,
passed and signed by
and
Governor
most of the
last week.
responses have so far been by
And
phone.
that bill puts all
Give me something in
the
writing, but Mark
body
might
keepers
come Wednesday if it looks like it's going to be an
into
issue.
government control.
Basically, what they're all
Registration
saying is,
and fees,
this
and they can
isn't
come
a
on your
loan
property and fine
situation,
you and throw you in jail
but
and lock up your
um,
bees.
it's so,
Do you ever see a bee
there's
with
some
handcuffs?
question whether the law
No, but
allows
I'd like to.
for,
Honestly,
whether we
it's a
follow
lot
it correctly or not,
comfortable
it
as long as
doesn't
we have-
necessarily allow for collateral
Incarceration
a-
of bees
investment. And
We
if you
thought
are
that was
going to
crazy.
look at changing property
Interested in
through
that
a
either.
collateral situation, you have to have an appraisal.
Oh, boy.
We
Anyway.
didn't do either of
Well,
those,
I'm
so
gonna tell you
to
right
what
now,
extent
if they're gonna sit there and
does-
discuss numbers
does what
on all
we
those
have
departments,
apply
I'm not
and
going.
how
I'm
much
out of
money
here.
do we
I don't
have to
think
want
they
to
can
get this
do
thing
that.
done? So it actually works to the benefit of
Hot
the
off the
citizens.
press. Literally.
Terrific, thank you, Nicole. I would think that it would just.
Thank you.
Add it whenever you want to, if you have
Exactly.
the other half of the water where
Even the cleaned lot,
Did you have an extra copy?
even the cleaned lot,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you have $20?
Any?
It seemed like an arbitrary, I think a
Put it
good
on the
number.
account.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just to compare to your original, I think that you should still have your original. I deleted off of page 1, birth certificates. I'm sorry, do you want me to explain what I did? I just jumped right in and started talking.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
We were all here.
Sure. Birth certificates and marriage license must be submitted with this application, so that line item was removed on page 1. Page 2, under item number 9, I added, if your life circumstances change for a birth, death, divorce, illness, etc., you may request an exemption to the 2-year time period from the county commissioners. And then page 4, I just realigned the signature of applicant and then included signature of recipient.
Nice job, Nicole. Looks good.
Perfect.
Would you do me a favor, us a favor, and just jot down our vote on this and give it to Ann?
Yeah.
They're short-staffed today, so she left us.
What are the consequences if you Answer no to number 9.
Well, I think that that's the most critical one to answer. Gives you the tools to say evasion, you checked right here.
Oh,
Yeah,
I,
okay.
that's my
Okay.
feeling.
Right,
okay.
that's how I understand
Yeah,
it as
that's
well.
what, yeah, yeah.
And if somebody wants a exemption right away,
Right.
then I would say evasion,
Yeah, I would think so.
right?
When Commissioner Fulford came upstairs, Bernadette had literally just left my office moments before we talked this through, and, I don't know what you could do later on if this happened. I think that that was one of Corey's suggestions as well, you know, if you don't do this and then you see this, there's this pattern of development. You can't call evasion after the fact because you've already signed the sheet, it's done, it's recorded, you can't go and pull it from the vault. And I don't think he meant that, you know, negatively by any means, but I just don't know if this were to not go through, fine, we would keep operating the way we are. You don't know something is evasion a lot of times until it's already done. And it's already been put up for sale. So hopefully this just makes people pause for a moment and say, okay, am I creating a family transfer for the purpose of family transfer or for the purpose of sale?
This also, in my mind, gives us the assurance that should somebody challenge, and anybody can sue at any time for any reason, we all know this, we have a document that shows we did our due diligence, which should enable our county attorney to defend us, should that happen. That's important to have that for the citizens again. Well, I will move that we accept and adopt the certificate of survey exemption affidavit as submitted.
Is there a second?
And I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Nicole, good work
Thank you,
on
Nicole.
this, as always.
Well, Lewis and Clark County did the bulk of it. I know I told you that. We're just modeling it off of what they did because it's working for them.
How long have they had this on the file?
Oh, you know, I don't know. I didn't ask that question. I can find out if you want me to, but I did not ask that question.
Okay.
Wilson Clark County's been a good guide for us. So I'm glad you went through them. I feel confident when they bring us something. They're usually on pretty solid ground.
And also on the TED discussion, I sent you an email explaining why we chose the 21st. You know,
Yeah.
I wanted to be sure it was in the newspaper, and then Lynette is leaving on vacation for 2 weeks, and it's just, it's summertime. She's leaving on the 22nd.
Oh,
So this, you know, just I want everything to be as perfect as I possibly can make it.
did you leave
For
it on the
this,
21st?
I did, yes. And so then meeting room space and then commissioner attendance. I know that this will also come before the commissioners at a later date, but if you want me to reschedule for June, I can do that too. So I'm not asking you to make a decision on any of this right now.